Where are you?
Shabam, is it not working again?
Shalom. I cannot see you, but I can hear you.
Here it comes. Seems like our normal occurrence, doesn't it?
I know. Are we recording?
Always, dog. This is the same conversation we have every time. I love it.
I know. Can you see? I can't see myself.
Just hit the video. Home slice.
There we go.
Can you see me?
Yeah. Looking handsome.
Hey, buddy.
Handsome, my friend.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Tell me about your tattoos on your arm.
These are actually...
Hold it in the middle so people can see them.
These are actually temporary tattoos. They're not real. It's actually funny. My middle son, Eli, he says they're not tattoos. They're pictures. Because he thinks temporary tattoos are tattoos. And
nice.
he doesn't know the difference between that and a real tattoo.
Nice.
So, yeah, I have one for each kid, I guess. E on my hand for Eli.
Okay.
I have I feel weird. I'm pulling up my shirt sleeve, but I have a half sleeve up here. It's a crest. I can't really show that without showing all of my arm.
Whoa.
Which would be inappropriate, so we're not going to do that. And over here, another half sleeve, and it's New Orleans, and it's a ark, which is also a shotgun style house, which if you flip it upside down is an umbrella, and it's floating through the water. And New Orleans is back here in the background. It's probably really hard to see.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's really cool. And actually, the cane is a dove where the handle.
Such a NOLA junkie. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, dude, how about how we are on iTunes now?
It's for real.
Yeah.
How did that even happen?
A wonderful person named John.
Yeah, for real. Hey, get in the middle of your camera, because I know it's going to cut you. Like, you're not in the middle. Get in the middle.
I am.
There you go, right there. Yeah, perfect.
There you go. Yeah, so a very nice person has helped us, and it was really cool. So
yeah, man, podcast for real. That was awesome.
Yeah. So, dude.
What's up?
You know what I was thinking about a little while ago?
What's that?
You're writing a book.
Yeah.
And unlike me, yeah, that's crazy. And unlike mine, yours are not pamphlets. Yours are actually. Tyler calls my books pamphlets. He thinks it's cute and funny.
They're good pamphlets.
But really, it hurts my feelings. It makes me want to cry.
I think the foreword that I wrote is longer than the book.
It really is. After when you send it back, you're like, "What do you need?" And I told you what I needed, and you sent it back, and I'm like, "Oh, well, this is really good. So just disregard the rest of the book. You read this, and you're good to go." I'm like, "What is he writing the book for me? What?"
I know. I did. I was like, I went over all your major points, and then you were like, yeah, you basically just went over the entire outline of the book, bro.
Yeah,
funny.
Right. No, so, dude, but this one's a big deal for you.
Yeah, it'll be good. I mean, it's really different than other books we've done, in that it's actually taking a lot of research to get through it, because it's all historical resurrections that have taken place. And Jeremy, I'm telling you, dude, these stories they're just absolutely nuts. They just.
Okay, well, tell me the craziest one to you, like so far in your research, the one that you thought was the most wild one. Or just pick one.
There's a lot of them. I can pick one really easily, but it seriously is really, really out there. There was a saying. I wrote about this one yesterday. This isn't the craziest one probably, but it's out there. So I'm writing on this guy named Vincent Farah right now, and he lived like in 1300. Actually, that's not true. Like at the end of 1300, he died in like 1419. And anyway, so he walked in a lot of crazy, miraculous, cool stuff. That the dude had just insane resurrections. He raised like 28 people from the dead, all this stuff. Anyway, so this one's out there, man. I'll tell it really, really fast. Basically, he was staying with a family, and it was a mom, dad, and a child. The boy was pretty young, and he left to go speak at a church with the dad. And when the dad came back home, he found that his wife had murdered their son. She'd had like a mental episode and had not only murdered him, but she had like gone totally crazy. I won't even say everything she did, but she basically chopped up his body and then tried to serve it to the husband for dinner. Like she had clearly lost it. So the dad,
that's not very nice.
Yeah, that's bad. That's really bad. So the dad like runs back to the church and gets Vincent and says, "Come with me." Takes him back home. Vincent goes around the house gathering up the child, and they organize the child's body on the floor. And then Vincent looks at the dad and he says, "If you'll believe, the God that gave this little one life to begin with can restore him. Do you believe it?" And the dad said, "Yeah." So Vincent makes a sign of the cross over the body parts. And before their eyes, the parts on their own move and fuse together. And the child's completely restored and raised from the dead.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. And this is documented. You found this in historical documents. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's even like, it's crazy because people 100 years after this happened, the house was still standing. And they went back to the place and found the oven where she had prepared, cooked him basically and tried to serve him, their father, the body and stuff. And they, you can go there today and there's a chapel just in the middle of nowhere with an inscription on the inside and out about the testimony. And dude, there's all kinds of stuff like that. That's part of the reason why I'm doing it, is because there's all kinds of stuff like this all throughout everything we do. I mean, whether it be St. Patrick's Day, who's dead raised, or whether it be Christmas, who St. Nick raised the dead. I mean, I just have this sneaking suspicion that, and I know that you believe the same way, where if we have eyes to see, God is everywhere, and He's doing things everywhere we go, and in every facet of society, God's already at work, and all we have to do is really just discover that. And so, for me, finding how God's worked in terms of resurrection throughout history and is present today working is just phenomenal, man. It's just amazing. So it's been a lot of fun, but dude, it's these stories aren't for the faint of heart, It's intense. So
are you able to talk about the title of the book?
Yeah, it's called The Dead Are Raised. And
Dead Are Raised.
That comes from when John the Baptist was in prison. Do you remember? And
yep.
one of
and Jesus, he goes to sends his people to ask Jesus, "Are you really the one that we were waiting for?" And then Jesus heals all the people and casts out the devils, and then they go back. And he said, "Go back and tell John that the sick were healed, the dead were raised, whatever." Right?
Bam! The Dead Are Raised.
The Dead Are Raised. That's a really good title.
Thanks.
It's a really good title.
So that's what's up, man. That's what's up.
So where'd your passion for all that come from?
I was just telling a friend about that before I got on here. Obviously, those of you guys that know me, I lost my dad when I was 19. Part of it comes from learning how terrible it is to lose a loved one, and just basically believing that God's good and that He must have a solution, even when it seems like all hope is lost. Started there. If you hear yelling, that's my wonderful children. But it also started with just a pursuit. I was just like on a pursuit to see Matthew 10:8 kind of come to pass. So that says, heal the sick, cast out demons, all that stuff, raise the dead. And for me, it kind of started with going to Walmart. So I was just going to Walmart back in like 2000. This is probably back in like 2007. I was just like going to Walmart and praying for people, and people were actually getting healed. Kind of blew my mind. But then I looked back at Matthew 10:8, and it actually says to raise the dead too. So I was like, might as well just throw it in there and go for it. So we started praying for people that had died, and just started going for it. And before we knew it, we had a ministry for that, basically because no one else was doing it. Oh, I just lost you. You're back. He's back. So basically just because no one else was really doing it. No one else was really going after it. And if someone died and they actually wanted someone to pray for their loved one, I found that no one was available to do that. And so because it was in the Bible, even if it was controversial, because it was in the Bible and because there was a need that no one was fulfilling, we started to go after it and make ourselves available for that. So.
And that is the DRT, the Dead Raising Team?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, dude.
That's awesome.
Good stuff.
Yeah, man.
So, Jeremy, I have to tell you something mildly inappropriate that I saw yesterday.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, this is going to be family friendly, don't worry.
Well, if chopping up children,
yeah.
you're like, yeah, forget about all that I just talked about.
Dude, when you asked that question, I was like, I don't know if he wants me to tell him the answer.
Hey, man. Hey, look, if it's important to you, it's important to me.
There you go. Dude, I don't know why, but my computer just brought up iTunes. What the heck are you doing, computer?
Hey, man, maybe it's God. What song? Was it Prince?
Lady Gaga. Just kidding. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what it's doing. Let me shut it down. So,
all right.
What's up?
We're still good though, huh?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so what is this inappropriate thing?
Okay, so yesterday I went on a little date. Took my daughter on a little date, and she loves donuts. So I took her to the store to get donuts. But and then I took her to the park. But on the way through town, I drove by this real estate agency place, and they have one of those big boards, like that, makes announcements about, what houses are for sale or whatever. Okay, so they were advertising a canal view house, right? So the first line is really all there is. It just says canal view, and then it gives some details underneath it, right? And it's a huge sign in town.
Were there letters missing?
There were letters missing.
Was it a C?
It was the C.
Oh, no.
And, dude, I was like, how did they not see this?
Yep.
It was amazing. So I'm going to take a picture of it.
That's great. I live in New Orleans, in Canal Street. Canal Street's, everybody knows Canal Street, right? Just 2 blocks that way. Well, the C has been painted over plenty of times. You'll just drive by and there it is.
I can't believe that we both have had canal encounters at this point.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds really terrible. Moving on.
I know. I was like, I'm not going to go down there. I'm just going to not. I'm not. I just think of how many people just pressed off.
Totally. They're like, yeah, I was going to listen to this podcast.
I know. So for those of you who are still here, hey, we love you. And we're glad that you have a sense of humor, because if you don't, then
that's all right.
This isn't for you. We love you, but this isn't for you. Oh, man, because somebody was saying, because I did that little thread on Facebook yesterday, and somebody was joking around about their shenanigans. And I'm like, hey shenanigans are fine with us.
We're on board.
How boring would life be without shenanigans?
Dude, you gotta have some shenanigans.
You really do. You really do. I often wonder about God, or not, Jesus, God, right? Yeah. During his life, just some of the foolishness that he did.
You know that he pulled some shenanigans.
Yeah, traveling around with the homies for 3 years in ministry, to and fro, sitting around the fire, I'm sure. Dude, just imagine what those suckers talked about.
Totally.
So.
Totally. If you read the Gospels, like, with the lens of who you really know Jesus to be, because he really is really funny and really fun, he really is. But he says certain things in there, and you can hear, like, he could be super funny.
Yeah. Yeah. He does crack jokes. He cracks jokes with me. It's not like a stand-up comedian. It's usually like one-liner type jokes. But he definitely uses humor, and I love it.
He's funny.
I love it.
So, Jeremy, what's new with you, dude?
What's new?
Yeah, come on.
I don't know, man. I feel like there's always new stuff.
Share it.
I'm alive today. It's a beautiful day. What's happened since last week? I don't know if there's anything new or noteworthy that's out there. I'm working on some projects, investing in a lot of people, loving life, which is great. I love what I do. I love waiting for Mondays on the weekends. We talked about that this weekend.
Dude, I love Mondays.
Me too, man. I spent 3 years of my life working in a job. I was doing business development for a company. It was a third-party administrator insurance company. And I joke around. I say that I was a desk jockey. So like, I worked in a cubicle and hardly ever got out. And let me just say that I have so much appreciation for the path that God has me on, for yanking me out of that, man, because that life was not for me. It is. Some people do really well in that life, but not me.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you could do it well in the sense of make money, but your heart and your spirit, man, would just drown after a while.
It really would. It really would. I love to be interacting with people, and something about being able to create with God, being able to not be overly tied down, and being able to, I don't know, not even be overly defined. Yeah. That's something that I was talking to someone about actually just a little while ago on a call that I had. Is a lot of the life that God's called me and challenged me to live, there's not a whole lot of model for it.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is it's really hard to find JoeBlow.com ministries and say, well, that right there is exactly what I want to do. I want to carbon copy that, and I just follow the formula along the way. There are a lot of things that I do see that are good that other people do, and I value them, and I do glean a lot of things from that. But I would rather never limit myself, never put myself in a self-imposed box that God, and tell God, okay, this is what we can do right here. So here are the parameters right here, and I'll seal the top, and I'm going to jump in, and I'm just going to sit here. Because here's the really cool thing about God. He pokes those boxes when we're in there, and he challenges us. He says, all right, come out. And actually he's in there. So he's in there and he's out. It's both and, right? Because he abides with us within the box, but he's also outside the box at the same time. Yeah. But he also honors those at the same time. And so he says, okay, well, if you're going to put you're going to put these limiters and limitations around yourself. Okay. I have better for you. I want more for you. Totally. And there's so much more life out here, around and up and down and over there to experience. But I'm not going to force you to do it.
Totally.
So I've really learned early on, and trust me, I jump back in the box all the time. Okay, so it's a constant realization of not being in a box and not limiting God. But I did learn early on, though, that life is a lot sweeter outside of that, and in the realm of uncertainty with God, and I would trade uncertainty over boring any day of the week.
Yeah, I'm not sure if everyone's personality is like that. Like I agree. I'm the same way, where I'd rather live outside the box, and there's pros and cons to that,
right?
Quite frankly, I mean, for sure, but. I'm not sure everyone's a risk taker like that. But for me, that's the only way for my heart to stay alive,
Me too.
What the heck are you doing?
It's a long story.
Look at you. I can't even see your face. There he is. All right.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No. Keep going with that point.
No, just that I don't think everyone is naturally wired like that. Like Christine is definitely awesome and a risk taker and all of that stuff. But compared to me, she would probably like to just kind of settle in and maybe not take the wild, crazy risks that I don't even think about that I'm taking. I mean, I don't even realize. Most of the time, I think I'm in the box. Most of the time, and I just find that I'm miles from most people's boxes. I'm not even near the box.
Right.
But I think there's pros and cons to living outside the box. I mean, me and you have both. We've had our fair share of struggles in doing what we're doing. And while creating is such a wonderful thing, writing, being able to do things like this, there's a lot of struggles that go along with the life we've chose. I mean, dude,
yes.
It's just, most people have no idea what it's like. And I'm not complaining.
No, I can totally relate. Okay, so to your first point, I'm with you. I think some people, God naturally hardwires with a higher risk tolerance, just inherent in their being.
You don't even know. Yeah.
You don't even know because you don't know anything else, and it just seems normal. Yeah. Even though you see things as being scary, but you just see that the risk reward is clear, right? And just think of a world where everyone was okay with being a kind of extreme risk taker. Nothing would get done.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, think about the machine of the world that has to get done. Like I just gave the example of working in an office where there's processes that needed to be done, where certain things had to be handled on a daily basis. And if there weren't people that really enjoyed doing that and were really good at it, man, everything would just implode in on itself really quickly. So I'm with you on that 100%. So, and talking about the risky things, it's a fine line because there are tons of challenges and struggles along the way. And you and I talk about things publicly sometimes, and it's something that I think about because I look at, okay, how much of the struggle do I share?
Yeah, totally.
And because my main thing, the filter for my messages, I want to be encouraging, inspiring, and empowering.
Yeah, totally.
So I want to build people up. But I also value, and like I know you do too, value real and value genuine. And so there is an aspect of struggle that occurs that that both you and I face. Yeah. But at the same time, we don't want to highlight the struggle. We want to highlight the victory because the victory is so much sweeter, right? Yeah. So how do you weigh that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm probably more. I mean, I'd probably always err on the side of real, just because I feel like it's kind of a safety net for me, just to be genuine and real with people is probably, instead of trying to censor myself. I mean, honestly, as much as it is like, I mean, we could totally make it about, hey, what do I share and what do I not share? But in reality, Jeremy, what you and I both really do is we go through something hard and we stick with God until we have an answer for it, and then we share. And I think that's the right way to do it, where you're still able to be completely genuine and real with how hard it was, but you're already on the other side of it to be able to share the victory, so that other people can relate to it. And that way, every status that you post, I've noticed you post a lot in the morning, really positive, 1 or 2 line kind of things, just basically reminding people that they're awesome, that God's with them, that God's for them, who can be against them.
Pamphlets.
Totally pamphlet status. Love it. And those aren't fake. Like, those are real. Like, because that's what you're living out of. And so, despite the fact that, an argument happened with our wives, or, there's this or that struggle. Like, the reality is those posts are still really real because we've arrived at that place with God and been with Him long enough to feel victorious,
Yeah, I was at lunch with someone yesterday, and I told them just about an argument that I had with my wife, and he said, "You argue with your wife?" And I'm like, yeah, yeah,
well,
I do.
Dude, when people say that, I'm like, bro, what shadowlands are you living in?
I know. Conflict is great. I also have a twisted view on conflict. I hate conflict. I hate fighting. But with people that I have really awesome relationship with, like my wife, for example.
Jeremy, I hate you.
I love you. This is awesome.
This is awesome.
No, but you're all okay. If it's somebody that you're unified with, like Christ, then all a fight is working around the periphery issues to realize unity.
Yeah.
And so you always end with a stronger sense of unity.
If you know how to fight. If you don't know how to fight, good luck.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true. And that's true. It takes 2 willing parties. Yeah. But and that's really the key. It's got to be 2 people willing to go through the conflict. But if you do, and if both people are willing to do that, and you go through hard stuff together, then you can truly rest assured that the conflict is in and of itself a good thing because you're stronger than you've ever been before.
Right.
And there's something about that I actually really like. And you mentioned like me starting my day, posting things, and I love that because I'm a very optimistic person. And it's funny because I came up like inherently, I hope for the best in everything. Now, on the other hand, I'm not a smiley, overly cheery person.
Right.
Those two things seem to contradict one another, but they don't. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Like, and I think sometimes people see some of the things I say and they just picture me being some guy with a big smile plastered on my face, and I'm like, I don't even smile. I smirk. I have fat cheeks. I'm not a big smiler. But you don't have to have a big smile on your face to be filled with joy and intensely optimistic.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And be filled with hope and joy and speak life. And so that was really cool to me when I realized that. I'm like, you can speak life endlessly and still be who you are. Like, you don't have to put on a persona of the guy or girl that you think is the happy person.
Totally. I like happy people, but happy people can be really annoying too.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm a pretty happy person. I'm not like an overly cheery person.
Yeah, you're not like a cheerleader.
No. Good. But I'm extremely optimistic, and I love, like, there's nothing I enjoy more than speaking life to people. Bam. So that's the pamphlets for you.
The pamphlet gospel, Jeremy.
What is the gospel?
It's
Jesus.
That's my answer these days.
The pamphlet or Jesus?
The pamphlet, I should say that.
Yeah, because you could just put one word. Like, what's the gospel? Here's a pamphlet. It's just one. The person of Jesus Christ.
You don't even need a pamphlet. You just need like a stick-it note, like a post-it note.
Yeah, man.
Jesus. Dude, honestly, the further and further along I go in my walk with God, the more and more simplified my theology becomes. And I'll tell you what, if it gets more complicated as time goes on, you're going the wrong direction. It's like as you grow with the Lord, like more and more should just funnel down to one reality.
That's how I feel.
Which is Jesus.
You were telling me about being kind of plastered by the Holy Spirit yesterday.
Yeah.
And me too, man. It's the simpler, which I don't even know if simpler is a word.
Let's make it.
But okay, the more simplified. It's the person of Christ within you. Totally. is where everything, and He inhabits all things, and He inhabits your person.
Yeah.
And how much more easy and simplified can it get?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's funny too, because like, oh man, I don't want to get theological here. It's just funny because like you and I know what we mean when we say that. When we say the gospel is Jesus in the end, and it's all about Jesus. It's crazy though, dude, because people even have a way to make that complicated. Like, I've heard people bring up the difference between Jesus of the Gospels and Jesus of Revelation, and I'm like, oh man. I've heard people even say that the Jesus of Revelation is who He really is, and that this whole gracious, nice, love your enemy Jesus is a season, dude. I've heard people tell me that Jesus is a season.
Wow.
That's from like a major ministry too, that I will not say their name. Their leadership sat me down and were having words with me.
Man, I don't envy you in that, and I don't pay attention to any of that stuff. I just don't. I know it's out there, and I'll occasionally see stuff here and there, but I just don't listen to it anymore.
That's good. Insulate yourself from that crap, dude.
I do. It's like it's like, I don't know, man. I don't want to get cynical or negative, but it's like the more everyone has to have something to say all the time, it's like the more we get into weird stuff.
Yeah, dude, totally.
And so this, like, that comes down to the simplicity sometimes. And you and me were talking about this the other day, maybe even yesterday, about the prophetic. And I found myself being more prophetic recently than I have in a while, but it's not purposeful at all.
Yeah.
And I don't put it inside of a sandwich saying, "Thus says God" up front, right, and God says do this at the end, word in the middle. So a lot of people don't even realize that they are receiving a very powerful and profound prophetic word. Some people do, but some people don't. And I think that ties together with what you were saying.
Totally.
About not being overly spiritual, but it being extremely spiritual at the same time.
Dude, I love the way you prophesy. Because so anyone that's listening or watching, since now, Jeremy, we have to realize that not everyone can see us because they're listening on a podcast.
I wouldn't be watching us. I mean, it'd be cool and everything, but I like to listen at the gym and
Jeremy,
stuff like that.
I gotta watch you. I gotta watch those arms. I gotta watch you.
I'm looking at you because look at that hair, the way
Shut
it hangs
up!
down.
Don't even start.
That's
I'll hang
beautiful.
up on you. I'll hang up
That's
on
like,
you. I'll do it.
It's a superhero look.
Okay, so check us out. Oh shoot, what were we talking about?
Prophetic.
Yeah. So the way he prophesies is just in conversation. He'll say something, and he knows when he's saying it that it's prophetic. He knows that he's speaking a word. But if the person doesn't have ears to hear, they'll miss it because it's done in the context of relationship, and it's done in the context of genuineness. So there's no need to like announce I'm being prophetic or this is a prophetic word from the Lord. And I don't think that's bad, and I don't think you think that's bad either. But I just love that it's so natural, that it's just so a part of who you are. The other day, Jeremy gave me a word and confirmed something that other people have told me not long ago in my life. And it just happened. It was so nonchalant, you know. And I love that. That's the way Wimber rolled, dude. That's the way John Wimber was, where John was like so naturally supernatural. Like he didn't have to like fluff it up. He didn't have to look all slick. He didn't have to like make this big show or do a song and dance. Like he just was himself, and in that God exalted himself. And I love that. I love it.
Well, you use the phrase naturally supernatural, and I've heard that phrase a lot. But the thing is, I really haven't seen very much natural supernatural.
Yeah.
At all, because it's always in the form of hyped and overly spiritual activity.
Totally.
And I had to learn to operate because most of the people I come in contact with are not.
Yeah.
It's not speaking. I mean, I'm not performing in front of a crowd or anything like that.
Good luck having hype to anyone outside the church and being effective.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I always when I very first was being awoken by the Holy Spirit, I was in the corporate world, and I was really excited about all the stuff, as I call it, the supernatural activity, the healing, the miracles, the prophetic, all things that I still love, still hold true, still hold a big place in my life. They're not the main thing, but I knew that I needed to, in the working world, be able to, if need be, walk into a conference room full of people,
businessmen,
and exude the presence of Jesus to where they just say, "What just happened?
Come on,
what just walked in?" And be able to just very quickly maybe say to someone if they're sick or if they have a cast on their arm or something, just be healed or something. Just get it done. Bam, you're loved. You're valuable. But without all the hype, without even like videotaping it to whatever, which that's fine, which that's cool too. I mean, that really helped. I mean, those kind of things help me, by the way, so I really value them. But there's times where it's really not appropriate.
Dude, I mean, honestly, just the other day, someone sent me a private message, and they were like, "Hey, I just want to talk to you about supernatural occurrences and da 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 da." And they weren't coming from a critical perspective at all, but they were asking me about how often have you guys got this stuff on tape? And I'm like, bro, like maybe the salesman side of me should kick in more or something, where I'm thinking about my Facebook following as I'm praying for this homeless woman to get healed. But I don't. I'm focused on the person. I'm focused on what Holy Spirit's doing. And so most of the time I forget. I mean, I would say every time I've forgotten to take out my phone before a miracle has happened and record it. If anything, afterwards, maybe sometimes I'll remember. But and you know what? I'm the same thing with salvation too. Like someone gets healed, and like I forget to like reel them in. As an evangelist would say, forget to set the hook and to reel them in. I don't even think. I'm more concerned about people encountering God rather than receiving Jesus as their Lord and Savior. So sometimes I forget. Sometimes at that perfect moment where you can say, "Hey, do you want to know more about Jesus? Do you want to feel more of Holy Spirit or whatever?" I just forget. And the salesman in me just blanks, and I don't feel bad about that is what I'm trying to say.
That's funny. I love it. I love it. I do have a cool video though.
Do it.
Excuse
Tell
me.
me.
This was a long time ago. This was, man, I was just driving, listening to music one morning. And actually, I was at my office, and the Holy Spirit's like, go drive around. So I'm just driving, listening to music. And he takes me through this like really rough neighborhood, which that's kind of funny to say. But considering I live in what people would consider a rough neighborhood.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm driving by a house, and the Holy Spirit says, give that woman the money in your pocket. I didn't know I had any money in my pocket. So I pull out, I reach in, I think it was my wallet, and look, and there's like $20 or something, 10 or $20. I was like, oh, I have money. That's cool. Guess I should go give it to her. So by that time I'd passed, so I drive around the block and stop and park and get out and give the lady money. I walk up to the porch. She was sitting on the porch, and I said, hey, I was driving, and here's me being overly spiritual, but I don't care. I said, the Lord invited me to give you this money. He asked me to give you this money. I want to give it to you here.
That's not overly spiritual. You're good.
No, whatever.
No hype.
So she takes it, and I'm paraphrasing, dude. I haven't told this story in forever. I think it's actually in The Longest Bridge Across Water. So if anybody's read it and I'm telling the story wrong, refer to the book because that's accurate. This probably isn't accurate. But anyways, so she takes the money and she starts bawling, man. Like she just loses it. And I'm like, whoa, okay, it's really not that much money. And she informed me that she's got all these kids that she's taking care of in her house. And the house is like infested with maggots and roaches and stuff. And she didn't know how she was going to eat that day. And she said she was sitting on the porch asking God, provide a meal for today. Like, how am I going to eat today?
Come on.
And, well, that's how she was going to eat today. So there was that. And then so I asked her, I was like, well, okay, well, while I'm here, how are you doing physically? How's your body? Because she looked kind of frail, you know? It was great. She was in her slippers and her pajama skirt thing. It was great. And she told me that she had a sewing needle in her big toe, like in her foot, like right around her big toe area. Yeah, I'm like, that's really, really strange. And I'm like, how come it never was taken out? And she told me this, and I don't know whether this part's true or not, but she said the doctor would not take it out because of where it was located. She said it might have hit a nerve or something or whatever. Okay. I don't know that jived. All I know is there was a needle in her foot, and it's been there for a long time, and it caused her pain and things like that. So I'm like, okay, well, cool. Well, God can take care of that for you. Let's do something about it. So we prayed and a couple times. And then all of a sudden, she started getting like this weird look on her face. I'm like, what? She's like, I could feel it wiggling. She's like, the needle was like wiggling and jiggling around in her foot. And it's funny because even before we prayed, like I had her rub to feel where it was because she could actually feel it when she would apply pressure pretty hard in that spot to make sure that it was still there. And it was still there and she could feel it moving. And then a few minutes later, I had her feel it one more time and it was completely gone.
Come on.
So that was my first experience with, I mean, I had seen people healed. I had seen like bones and, you know, healed and, you know, all that kind of stuff, which was awesome. But that's the first time I'd seen anything like dematerialize.
Melting away some metal.
Melting away metal. And actually, the way it jiggled, I don't know. Like, I would love to be able to see that with my eyes. I'd love to be in there to be able to see it because, I mean, I felt stuff before.
Yeah.
Like, I've been praying for people before with my hand on their body and felt things like pop.
Yeah.
You know, like I felt someone's meniscus tendon like a day before they're going to get surgery pop. I've heard it pop and pop back together. I don't know why it would pop if it was going back together, but it did. And they go back the next day and the doctor says, you don't need surgery anymore. This is crazy.
Come on.
So,
so did you tape that lady?
I did. Yeah. After I have a video.
That's why. See, you remembered. You remembered to set the hook.
I set the hook, man. I did. Like I followed the guidebook. And then, but then we got some of her family saved too. So we really did the right thing.
Come on,
no,
you got it all.
No, but her I think it was her son came out, and she's like, "You're not gonna believe this. The needle's gone." He's like, "What? What?" So she explained it to him, and God gave me some words for him about who he is and where he is, and it was cool, man. Like all kinds of stuff just popped off on that porch that day.
I think it's great that you remembered. I just always forget.
Yeah.
Recording.
Me too. Well, that was probably at a time where I wanted to record them, and so it was like more at the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
I think now I'm the opposite.
Yeah, everyone's kind of doing that now.
Yeah.
Just fine.
I mean, yeah. Well, that's the cool thing. You experienced that stuff way before I did. Like I remember, dude. I've never told you this before. But I remember, I was working at that company, the one I was telling you about, right?
Yeah.
And I was listening to a podcast at my desk because I didn't feel like doing a spreadsheet. Because who wants to do a spreadsheet?
Yeah, for real.
Nobody. Come on. And it was you being interviewed by Sid Roth.
Really?
Yeah. But here, I'd listened to a couple other ones.
I wonder if it was me or if it was someone else.
It was you.
I don't think it. Well, forget it.
It was you. It was you, and you were kind of like on the run. You were going somewhere, and so you were talking on your cell phone, kind of like as you went.
Yeah.
And I love that because I remember at the time I was thinking, this dude's different, and this is no disrespect to other people at all, but a lot of times when people go on stuff like that or they get interviewed like that, they want to put on their best face. And they want to kind of do the talking points thing and stuff like that. But you were just off the cuff, and you were just like going somewhere, and the call came or whatever, and so you just had to keep doing what you were doing.
What did we talk about? Healing?
I can't remember. I think so. Healing. I mean, this was like 3 or 4 years ago when I listened to this. So
yeah,
it was brief, and it was you.
Well, I believe you.
Do you not remember doing that?
Dude, honestly, there were so many different interviews. And I've just like canned all of them in my mind. I don't remember anything.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty positive. I'll have to find. I don't even know where I'd find it. But.
Well, there was a period where I was doing a lot of interviews. Thank God that doesn't happen anymore. Actually, they asked, but I just turned them down now. But I don't got no time for that. I'm just I want to talk to Jeremy. I just want to look at his sweet, sweet face and do a podcast. So here we are.
So charming.
Or creepy, one or the other.
Yeah, because Vice was reaching out to you, weren't they?
Yeah, ABC, NBC, Vice, you name it, whatever. But you know, I learned the hard way, Jeremy, that those just are not a good idea. Years ago, someone from Bethel told me that Bethel's stance was not to do those kinds of interviews, and I wish I had just kind of gone with that and not taken some of these interviews. I mean, some of these interviews, dude, they had like 3.5 million people listening, but they were all about baiting me in and then just slaughtering me publicly. They tried. Yeah. I remember one, it was with this guy. He's like an agnostic dude or whatever. He has this huge following. And actually did a Skype call like this with him. And he started out the interview with, so Tyler, you can raise the dead. not even like hello or anything like that. So I was like, oh, that's how you're going to play, huh? So
what did you do?
He goes, so Tyler, you can raise the dead. I said, no. Just awkward silence, dude. For like, I just let it sit because I was like, the longer I can make it sit without him hanging up, the better. Like, just make it awkward. Because I'm like, dude, if you're going to come out of the box swinging at me like that, because I know what you're getting at. Like, you're trying to make me look like I'm making some claims about myself, like I'm some wacko cult leader. Give me a freaking break. I'm not going to play that game. So I just let it sit for a while, and then finally I just said, but Jesus can. And he did not. I just saw he did not like that. He got all upset. But, dude, that's the thing. You're going to come out swinging, I'll swing back. I'll just exalt Jesus because you ain't going to like that. But anyways, it's like I don't know. Those interviews, dude, they just weren't, most of them weren't a good idea. I mean, Sid's a little different from those guys, but
yeah.
You know, I think for a ministry like ours, you know, we're not like the biggest ministry on the block or whatever. And And I think there's this thing of like, oh, it could help more people hear about what we're doing. In reality, it just doesn't. It just feeds the fire of the critics a lot of the time.
So. Yeah, I mean, it really boils down to, like you said, a lot of people are going to see it, but it's not a lot of the right
It's not
folks.
the right people, yeah.
And what I mean by right people is people who are interested in the message. And a lot of that, like I know some of the folks that have reached out to you are people that like to do kind of extreme pieces.
Yeah.
That on extreme things, and
they just want shock value.
And so most of the people that are reading it are just kind of reading it for entertainment purposes and like, what is going on?
Yeah, and they just want to roast someone. They just want someone to shoot their fire out for a while, and then they'll move on to the next person, you know?
Yeah. And so, I mean, you could always say, well, what if you made a handful of new friends through that and whatever, but, you know.
It's like, dude, I could make a handful of new friends through just doing a podcast with my friend and talk about whatever with them, you know?
Yeah, well, I think that says a lot about you, Tyler. A lot. And I think what
do you mean?
Well, what it says is that you're not a fame seeker. Because attention's attention, right? Yeah, and if someone's hungry for attention, 3.5 million views about you, even if it's negative and even if it's whatever, is still going to give you jollies because it's stoking the ego,
right?
And it's fulfilling this need for attention, and I think it's great. I think what it really just highlights who you are, which is a man who knows God and knows himself, has a message, and is interested in helping people, but is driven by love and not by self.
Thank you, Jeremy. I received that. I really am not drawn to fame. I'll tell you this though, Jeremy. I'm totally okay with being in the spotlight if it means that Jesus, and I don't say this from like a place of like, I get that someone could say this from a place of like false humility, but I don't have a problem with being in the spotlight if Jesus is in the spotlight. What I mean by that, let me say that a little more clearly. Like, I recognize that many times in someone's life, Jesus actually puts them in the spotlight so that he can further exalt himself. I'm cool with that. But just to be in the spotlight because I have some kind of insecurity that needs to be met by a bunch of people looking at me, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And it's just it's only going to serve to destroy my life. I mean, if you lived in the same town as me, Jeremy, you would know. I mean, I don't even, most of the time, I'm not even trying to hang out with many people. I've got enough on my hands just with my own family, let alone to, be seen by a bunch of other people and be known.
Yeah.
So, thanks, man. I received that. I receive it.
And like what you said, I'm the same way in that I would actually prefer to not be in the spotlight.
Yeah.
But I do have a burden, and the burden's a bad word. I have a fire in my belly to
I've got a burden, brother.
It's strong. No, but I do have a passion to share with people everything that nobody shared with me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Like I remember getting to know God in such a profound way. And during that time and during that process, saying over and over again, like, how come nobody told me about this?
Yeah, totally. Dude, I so know what you mean, man.
How come nobody told me this was possible?
Yeah.
And I don't want to duplicate my experiences on anybody else, but I do want to tell as many people as I can, here's what God did with me, for me, and here's what's possible for you.
Yeah.
It's gonna look different, but it helps to have reference points. It helps to have it because I remember, and even now, it's stories that get me and intrigue me. It's stories about people's lives that were awakened by God, like mine was.
Yeah.
That fueled me during those times. It wasn't how-to books or how-to messages.
Yeah, totally.
And so that's kind of how I want to share with people. But I think for that reason, I do have a pretty strong passion to share things. But
dude, it's like every time you get close to Jesus and he drops something that's kind of earth shaking or earth shattering, whatever you want to say. It's like that. I get that same thing of like, how did no one ever tell me about this? Like, how come I didn't read this in all the books that I read? How come no one in my church ever mentioned this? I mean, dude, those moments are both beautiful and ironic because somehow at some point it feels like, oh my gosh, how did I hear about this? And even to the extent of like, were people like keeping this from me? Like, did someone know about this and not tell me? Like, was there a conspiracy? Because this is so plainly, say, in the Bible or, whatever.
Well, I do know for a fact that some things were kept from me, actually. So,
there you go.
I mean, I wanted to make sure that I didn't do that to other people, you know, to make sure that I shared things as extreme as they were, you know. I'm sorry if this shocks you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable for me a little bit, and it might be uncomfortable for you, but I promise it's for your benefit. So.
Yeah, totally. So give me like an example. Well, we can end this call pretty soon, but give me an example of something like that.
Like what?
Like something that you had that moment of like, oh my gosh, you realize something and then you go, why didn't anyone tell me about this?
Oh my goodness. I can think of so many, but I would say the one that was most pivotal, like hands down, was when, you see, I was a little boy. I can remember back to my childhood, and I've always been a very intuitive person. Call that prophetic, call it intuitive, call it whatever you want. But I always knew that I was wired for, are you still there?
No, well, I'm here, but
okay. I'm sorry about that. Yes, I was always wired for more than what it was that people told me about with God.
Yeah.
And so I was painted this picture of who God was, and it was primarily him being concerned with obedience and jumping through some hoops and whatever. And really, that was it. And basically, he was kind of angry, and because of his anger, he's got his hand like cocked back like this. Yeah. You never know when you're going to get pimp slapped.
Right.
Ever. So you kind of have to walk on eggshells because the hand might come at you and might knock you out. So because of that, I just I believed in Jesus as the Messiah. I believed in all, that stuff was okay with me.
Yeah.
And so I was comfortable with that. But as far as like relating with God, I had what he later called and told me was a dysfunctional relationship with him.
Yeah.
Meaning we didn't have any open lines of communication. I didn't know the sound of his voice. I didn't know his heart. And while we were perfectly unified, there was a perceived distance.
Yeah.
A lot of distance.
Yeah.
Okay. So, man, to summarize a very long story here, it was when I was very first awakened by the Holy Spirit, when not only did I feel the peace and the love that I had always known that he was capable and longing to give me, but it was when he started communicating with me on a very intensely personal level. And for me, that came in the form of visions. He started showing me visions, and nobody had told me. I didn't know that was possible. I mean, you could say that I read it in scripture, and I did.
Yeah.
But at the time, nobody was reading those scriptures and saying, "Hey, look,
this is for
God.
You. Yeah.
This is for you." God showed up and wrote with a finger on the wall. Hey, expect that. He could do that with you.
Come on.
It was the opposite. It was that won't happen. Or, God revealed himself in the form of fire in a bush, and whatever. So, like even with Daniel, like showing him these crazy visions, and when I started seeing stuff like that, and not only that, but hearing the sound of God's voice, and I consider that part of God's voice, obviously. And he started whispering, and sometimes speaking loudly, these things, and in these encounters and in these experiences, showing me how much he was embracing me and revealing his goodness and his love towards me, but doing it in a way that was wrapped up in a extremely unique and distinctly personal language that only I could understand, right? And that he wired me intuitively to long for connectivity in that way. When he illuminated my heart and showed himself to me in those places and in those ways, I was ruined. I'm like, this is it. And that's when I started saying things like, how come nobody told me this? Like, how come nobody expressed to me that God is truly this personal and truly this interested in relating with me and my heart and being my friend?
Yeah, Jesus.
And so really, that's the main thing for me in my message. There's a lot of stuff around the periphery. There's a lot of kind of ancillary benefits from that. But at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's that believing in the relationship with the person of Jesus.
Yeah, come on. That's what it's all about, man.
But in a very real way. Yeah. I'd always had the theory. I'd always had the doctrine. And that stuff's good. I value it, and I honor people who are really big on that. Good for them. We need them. Like, in the body of Christ, they're extremely necessary.
Maybe we do.
Well, I'm just trying to be nice. Go ahead. No, they are. But that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I want tactile. I want experience. And I understand, dude, you have to have perspective. You have to have your experiences framed and not framed, but you have to understand that they're not in conflict with who God is and what he said. Trust me, I get all that. But I want to experience, like, I don't want to hear about your trip to Hawaii from somebody who's never been to Hawaii.
Totally.
When you tell me about your love and your, like, dude, I love here. I've never been interested in going to Hawaii until you told me about how awesome Hawaii was to you and how special it was to you, how much you loved hiking, snorkeling, these crazy trees, these crazy cliffs, and these crazy mountains, and what it was like for you to experience them, and all the weird naked people on the beach. I'm just kidding. That's not part of it. But
it's true, though. It's true.
But there's so much life on that because you tangibly live that. Like, you smelled the smells, you tasted the taste, you felt the air, you felt the water. That's so real to you, and so there's life on it. And that's why I could never talk about God before, because I hadn't experienced him in a way that was real to me, and I can't talk about stuff that isn't real to me. Some people can't.
That's why it says taste and see, bro. Taste and see the Lord is good. You got to
taste and see. Yeah, I can't describe to you something that I've never touched.
Yeah.
Or I haven't learned, and that's why there's so many things that I don't talk about when it could, like, in Scripture, how the world started, how it's going to end. I have some opinions.
You're like, I don't know exactly.
No, I have opinions. Some people say some things, and I'm like, well, that sounds pretty good, and other people that, and I'm like, I'm sure not going to hang my hat on either one of them. But I believe, based on who I know God to be, that one really resonates with my heart.
Totally.
But I'm not teaching it. Yeah, I am not teaching it. So
that makes sense. And it's funny because my question to you was, what's the thing that you stand back and you go, why didn't anyone tell me about this? And my thing, hands down, is resurrection. Like, when my dad died, I remember just a couple years afterwards being like, why didn't anyone, like, I started discovering that the dead are raised, right? And I was like, why didn't anyone ever tell me this? Like, if someone had just once told me from not a doctrinal perspective, because every Christian believes that Jesus has been raised from the dead, right? But we haven't connected the dots between Jesus being raised from the dead and the fact that God does not change, which means that he's still a victor over death, right? He still is doing it. No one ever spoke from that place of experiential truth. They only spoke from a doctrinal truth, and so it left me devoid of power. I didn't know, when my dad actually was dead in front of me, that we could pray for the dead to be raised. I didn't have that lifeboat to jump into. That was it. Done deal. And so I made it my pursuit to experience it, and now we've had, I think, 15 people come back. So it's awesome. But like, But yeah, man, there's something about the difference between someone that's experienced something and speaks from that experience with a love and an honor, and then someone that's just reading something in a book and basically just parrots what they read in a book, and it's just doctrine. It's just knowledge rather than experiential knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there might be some revelatory life on it here and there, but don't be mad when people don't care to hear about it.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that people, if you're a reporter, if you're a sports reporter, they put you up in the stands to watch the game.
Yeah.
And write about the game as it goes on for a reason.
Yeah.
When whatever, if you're a correspondent talking, covering the war in Afghanistan or Syria, they send you there.
Yeah.
So that you can encounter what people are feeling, experience what it's like.
And go ahead. Sorry.
And I think in the kingdom with people like us and our friends and just all of us, if we would speak from the life and the things that God has spoken to us and taught us experientially and taught us in, as I say, reality instead of theory, we would be so much better off. And I think more and more people are doing that. I see it every day. It's increasing and it's really exciting. I love seeing it.
I agree.
I love seeing it. What were you going to say?
Well, just that I remember one time Christine said to me, if you want to, I forget how she said it really, but she basically summed what we're saying up in a different way. And she was basically like, if you enjoy something, it doesn't matter if you're really good at it or not. If you enjoy it, it will draw people. It will influence people. Like Heidi Baker loves being a missionary. Like you can see it. And obviously she's a very good missionary as well. But like if you just enjoy something, like if you're a sports writer and you go to a basketball game and you watch Curry and you watch him sink threes and you're jacked up about it, dude, I guarantee you that people are going to want to listen to what you have to say just because you're excited, just because you experienced it and then you write about it. But there's something about people that are dissatisfied in what they're doing in life and they're not really enjoying their life. There's something about that has no influence. Does that make sense? Like when I listen to a mom who's like a stay-at-home mom homeschooling their kids, if they love what they do, I love listening to them. Dude, it can be about stuff that I'm completely uninterested in. It's like someone talking about painting or something, which I don't paint and I don't really think ever about painting. But if someone's excited about painting, they start to explain to me what it's like to paint and what it does in their heart and what it expounds upon in their mind and how it, whatever. The blending of colors, things that I never think about, it's going to become interesting. There's something about experiencing something, enjoying it, and then doing it with all your heart that like automatically brings influence to anyone that you talk to. They'll hear you.
Yeah. Especially when you're talking about kind of sometimes metaphysical things like dealing with the person of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
It's where it's not always so tangible.
Yeah.
That's hard. Sometimes it's hard to explain some stuff.
Yeah.
And so hearing someone talk about it because they were there it really helps. It really helps people get an example of what's possible in a kind of a metaphysical experience for themselves.
Dude, totally.
I always say that I don't want to hear about what it's like to be on an acid trip from somebody who's never done acid before.
Yeah, for real.
I mean, not that I'm advocating drug use, of course I'm not, but what I'm saying is that's such a trippy encounter, literally, no pun intended. If you hang around with Jesus long enough, you're going to have trippy encounters.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen because the infinite supernatural life of God lives inside of you. You're going to see some things that kind of blow your mind.
Yeah.
And so looking for it and communicating that in a way that's beautiful but also beneficial is a really good thing.
And I can pretty quickly now. Uh-oh, are you locked out? You want to go outside? Nice. Can I open it up in a second? Actually, have Mom open it up. Thanks. Okay, well, that's fine. You can keep them on. Sorry, everybody. I'm talking to my little 3-year-old. I was just going to say it's pretty quick that I can recognize someone that's speaking on a topic that has experienced it and someone that hasn't. whether it be business, whether it be spiritual realities, whatever it may be. And honestly, it's okay sometimes. I think sometimes that we speak on things that we don't have much experience in because we're pursuing it, and that's okay too.
And that's okay too. Yeah. I like how you said that.
But
even limited experience is fine too. Yeah. I mean, experience doesn't qualify you. Yeah. And I think that's really the key, is that experiencing thing doesn't make you qualified to talk. Everybody's encountered Jesus to some extent.
Yeah.
And so we're all qualified to be able to share that with people and to empower other people with our experiences, as limited as they are, and it's okay. And as you do that, you'll grow.
Totally, dude.
Totally, dude. Yeah. Is anybody going to hang up on anybody today?
I think we got along. I didn't try to make any ploys for people to give to Jeremy.
I know. My voice is a little out. I'm sorry.
No, you sound
everybody.
Great. You sound awesome. Well, hey, everybody out there, we love you. Jeremy, I love you. I value you so much as a friend. I am so excited that you're my friend, and you have filled a void in my heart and in my life relationally that no one else could fill. I'm serious. I just so value you. I value the way you speak in my life. I value the accountability that you give me just by being my friend. What I love about my relationship with Jeremy is that you don't really need to talk about accountability if you have a real relationship with someone. I'll tell you what, something in the church, Jeremy, that bugs me is how we talk about how we need to be accountable to one to another, which is basically just a bunch of people saying that they don't have any real relationships in their life. Mm-hmm. Because once you have a real relationship, the stuff that needs to come up that you need to be held accountable with just naturally happens.
It comes up in the midst of conversation.
Oh, totally.
And then the other friend can say, "Whoa, hold on a second."
Yeah, just a second, buddy.
Hey, hold on a second. What you just said? Hey, have you considered this?
Yeah,
hey,
come on.
Have you thought about this way? And then the other one says, "Oh, you have a point there."
Oh, right.
And
Jeremy,
go ahead.
I don't know. You're good at doing that. You're good at confronting what needs to be confronted very gently. And I've watched you do that in your marriage. I've watched you do that with me. Dude, I so appreciate you. And I just want to end this phone call with just a bunch of bromance going on.
Oh, man.
I love you.
Well, thank you. I love you too. And you are all those things for me and more, dude. I could not appreciate you or be more grateful for you. You said you wanted to end the call that way, so I would be dishonoring you if I didn't let it end that way. No, don't do it.
I'm going to hang up. Don't do it.
Tyler, you're so beautiful. I love your man nuts. I love your hair.
No. Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't think I can bring myself to hang up on you like you so instinctively did last time.
It's easy. Just do this.
There it is.